Welcome to another episode of the Legal Ops Podcast, a show about all things legal operations, legal tech, and legal business. I am the alleged host, Daryl Osuch, and with me today, I'm excited to have another good, amazing guest, a veteran who has seen a lot in the industry, someone who has a fair bit of experience helping to build business, someone who has undoubtedly had the pleasure or displeasure of talking to and dealing with far too many lawyers, and has done all of this in multiple countries. Please welcome my guest, Jane Oxley, the CRO of Smokeball.
Thanks. It's great to be here. So I'm Jane. I'm Chief Revenue Officer at Smokeball, one of the founders, and Smokeball is a practice management software. We're out of Australia. You can tell by my accent, but we also operate in the US and recently in the UK.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Welcome to the pod. So obviously, as you know, this is a podcast about all things legal operations. So I'm going to start with the most pressing question on everyone's mind, which is, what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Wow. Okay, my favorite type of pizza is pepperoni. That's easy. Pepperoni is,
Really?
yeah, it's classic. It's the best pizza. And my favorite pizza in
So,
the whole world is from Roberts in Chicago. They do this pepperoni pizza that is like, it has this chili, Calabrian chili sauce on it. It's the best thing in the whole world. I dream about it.
you, the ooh, let me just say, the emotions for anyone who's listening to the podcast version of this, the emotion on your face when you said that was incredible.
Yeah.
Um, you so we have some weird connections, some weird things in common. One of those things being that we have both lived in or spent a significant amount of time in Chicago.
Yes.
So, out of curiosity, the pizza that you apparently have dreams about, is this a thin crust or deep dish?
Yeah. It's not deep dish. It's like classic Napoli style pizza. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not like Uli Malnati's deep dish.
Okay,
You like
for
that?
I love so listen, I'm a born and raised Chicagoan. We've kind of talked about this. My pizza knowledge, my pizza opinions have evolved across my lifetime, and I have come to reconsider my love of Chicago pizza, and it is simply this. I love it. It it fills me with so much joy and obviously a lot of calories and saturated fats. But I can also admit at this point in time, like, it's barely pizza. It's a pie. It's a cheese pie. It's beautiful. It's glorious, but it's barely a pizza. The Napoli style pizzas. I live in Tokyo.
Mm,
You need to get out here because bizarrely there are a handful of pizzerias in Tokyo that are incredible, legitimate, wood fired, just
mm.
beautiful, and actually kind of world renowned. So
Really? Okay.
yeah, yeah, get out here, Jane.
I would go
Um,
with that.
enough pizza talk, but you previewed it in discussing Smokeball. There's a US presence, there's a UK presence, you
Mhm,
are Australian. So
mhm.
there is apparently some bizarre Chicago, Australia pipeline of people going to and from. What
Yeah.
what's the deal? How did you get from there where you are to over there, the other over there?
Yeah, the other over there. So we Smokeball started up in about 2012, 2013. We spun out of another legal tech company in Australia and decided, probably foolishly, to actually have our first market be in the US. So new product, new market. A few of us went to the ABA Tech Show, which was just on in Chicago. It's on there every year. Went and saw some law firms, and went, these are just like law firms in Australia. I would like to make it sound more scientific than that, but that's really as scientific as it was at the time. I didn't realize how cold it was. I would like to put that out there right now. So we started up in Chicago, and I moved over there in 2013 with my husband and my three children to start something from zero. So yeah, it was one.
Did you, out of curiosity, did you have a winter jacket or did you have to buy a winter jacket after you moved there?
Oh yeah, I mean, I came from Sydney, so um, we did not have winter jackets. I was actually a little bit anxious about it going in September, but the day we arrived was like about 100 degrees in Chicago in September. And then, but everyone was like, it's coming, winter is coming. So we quickly went out and bought big warm jackets. And then it was the polar vortex winter. And it was like the average temperature was minus 20 Celsius, but I mean, that's close to the same in Fahrenheit anyway. It was freezing, freezing.
I had in law school, went to law school in Ohio, so kind of south and a little bit west of Illinois and Chicago, but still pretty cold. A friend of mine, or two of us that were from Chicago actually, and a friend of mine from California.
Hmm.
We, the two Chicagoans, took him to Chicago. He said, "I'd never been to Chicago," and it was winter break, and we said, "Look, I don't know what your experience is with cold, but you have to be prepared." It very much felt like, we were like Himalayan Sherpas, just being like, "Are you sure you have the right gear? You might not be prepared for this." And no exaggeration, we spent so much of the next few days apologizing for how painfully cold Chicago was.
Yeah.
It's rough. So you you noted maybe it was a bit foolish or foolhardy to just jump into the U.S. market. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Well, I think anyone who has started a tech startup will know that getting those first clients on, like kind of like make it popular stage, we like to call it at Smokeball, is really difficult. And it's easy to be close to the clients, especially for the developers, the engineers. At that point, we didn't really have product people, but so having trying to learn how to build a new product and make sure that product was fit for market, and then adding being on the other side of the world, the time zone constraints, and the fact that we knew nothing about the US market. We didn't know any people. We didn't know how to hire. We didn't know about health insurance. I mean, it was just the list of things we didn't know was unbelievable. And we had a brand new product. So, it was like you just took this baby to the other side of the world, um, and I mean, I'm making it sound funnier than it was, but it was hard. It was very, very hard at the beginning. And the US's market is not an easy market to enter. It's a big, fragmented market. And so it was, um, it was definitely a very difficult time in the first couple of years for us. Yeah.
You noted in the prep call that it took kind of grit. It took motivation and grit. That's a bit more of a grind business mindset, right? Like, it's not particularly unique to legal tech or the legal profession, right? It's just this is a big leap. We're starting a business. It's just that lens. Is that right? Is that fair?
I think that is fair. I think anytime anyone starts a new business, it's incredibly difficult, and I have a lot of respect for anyone who does it. Um, but yes, I mean, for us, it was, um, and anyone who sells to lawyers as well knows that lawyers are hard to sell to, right? They are skeptical by nature. They're taught to be that way as well. And they like to buy trusted things. So I mean, it's kind of the hardest thing about getting into legal is you need to get a reputation and you need to find those early adopters. And look, we found some really fabulous early adopters who helped us in those early years. Like they would talk to other people. They were real connectors for us. And but it was incredibly difficult. It would have been easier at certain points to come home. But like when you uproot your life and you take your whole family across the world and you get your three children in school in Chicago, and I mean, I did not want to go home with my tail between my legs. I wanted to succeed, and and we knew that if we could do it, it's an incredible market to get into. So it was really difficult. There was literally door knocking in sub-zero temperatures in Chicago because we had no presence. One of one of our staff got banned from a building for solicitation.
Whoa, that's amazing. And by the way, reminding everyone, this is not book selling. This is selling legal technology, this is selling a service, a platform,
Yeah.
and you're knocking on doors, got banned from a building.
Yeah, it was this building that was full of really tiny law firms. It's actually one of my favorite buildings in Chicago. It's called, I don't even know how to pronounce it, the Monadnock building. It's a beautiful building. It's like one of the many jewels in the Chicago architectural landscape. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to get that presence and it's hard to get those early adopters. And you do everything, right? You're doing the digital marketing, but our budgets compared to other people in market at that point in time, and still today, were tiny. So we would be out there at Chicago Bar Association doing events. We were out in DuPage County. We were in Kane County. Like, I mean, you just you got out there and you did the work to get those those first bums on seats.
Bums on seats. For our other international guests, those are butts and chairs. Bums on seats. Also for our international guests, Kane County, DuPage County. Look, it's not exactly super rural. It's not the sticks, but it ain't the city, right? It definitely ain't big city. It's not a Chicago. It's not a Sydney type municipality kind of that level. It's something a bit smaller. But you were at the point of the story, and again, as a Chicagoan, I appreciate like getting out to DuPage County. Like that's a minimum of an hour drive. Like you throw in some traffic and that's a disaster. You were doing you and your team doing a significant amount of work to capture, ensnare those clients. The early adopters. So this is kind of a universal challenge, not only in legal technology, I would say, but in terms of kind of change management and building towards what is often referred to as a critical mass of adoption for a tool or a change initiative, etc. Do you have any sort of insight on your challenges of those early adopters? Because it does sound like you noted it's one thing to get a client, and it's another thing to get a client that is willing to go a bit of a step further and start connecting you to other people and saying like, no, this stuff is really, really good. I'm not getting paid for this. Go check this stuff out. Like, did you have any insight on what sounds like some success with the early adopters?
Yeah, so I think the success of the early adopters came down to, firstly, we realized we really had to focus and go really, really super narrow. So we went, you know what, let's try and sell. We actually, for a time, we went, well, let's sell to real estate attorneys in DuPage County. DuPage County was good to work with. And so it's like we just kind of had to get like that little subset of clients to get going. So that was the first thing, I think. And then from there, the good thing about real estate attorneys was that um, they produce paperwork. And real estate law in the US is very fragmented as well. But in Chicago, they actually do a fair bit of the part of the process in Chicagoland. So we knew that we could help them get that paperwork out the door much faster because we have beautiful word integration and Outlook integration. So they had a very quick productivity uplift by using Smokeball. They were able to handle more matters, more cases, more files. So that it was a quick win. They could see the benefit. And then the good thing about real estate attorneys is they still attend closings face to face. I just don't know if they do it. I'm sure they still do. So we had this one fabulous attorney. He was actually in the Monadnock building, referring to that again, called John Zahara. He worked with his wife, Debbie. And every closing he would go to, he would talk about Smokeball for the first couple of years of
Oh,
practice. And
Nelly. Wow.
it was amazing. And so he'd come back from a closing, he'd send an email going, "Hi Jane. Jane, meet John. I met John at a closing today and told him about Smokeball. John, you should take a look at Smokeball." So, like those and he liked us. He wanted to help us. But he knew that we had truly helped his business. We've got a beautiful case study we did with him many years ago as well. So I think finding, to me, the key with any business getting started, I'm always like focus, 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 because it's like human nature to try and be everything to everyone, and then it's very easy to be nothing to no one. So that was what built our success in those very very early years was early adopters where we had a definite pain point as you alluded to that we could solve, which was getting paperwork out the door and being organized and feeling in control of your day, which is still what we do for most people, and those people who naturally interface with a lot of other attorneys throughout their day. So I was quite lucky probably in some respects.
Okay, that's fantastic. It sounds like this is another question that I'd wanted to ask, but I think that you'd answered it. The focus on this particular niche was very deliberate, right? You and the early founders of Smokeball said we're looking at people who are generating a lot of documents. That was a strategic focus. It also kind of sounds like there was a bit of personality, right? Human relationship building as well that kind of came to play. But it definitely was, it was a strategic focus on high paper generating
At that point,
lawyers.
yes. Yeah. And I think, um, you know, our our IP as people who started Smokeball came out of dealing with small law firms. And so we've always felt quite passionate about supporting small law firms. We know, I mean, I dropped out of college after a couple of months and ended up working in a couple of small law firms. That was kind of my story. And, they're helping community members they're helping us deal with all our crap, right, in life. So they're interesting people. They have dry senses of humor. They're dealing with divorces and dying parents, and people starting businesses and like stressful stuff, and we can truly help them. So that was where we came from, and what we realize now is that when you've got a smaller business, an all-in-one solution is such a no-brainer, right? Because you don't want to have to think about like best of breed is great when you've got 300 people and it's like us, right? We use Salesforce and then we use Pardot and then we use a million other things that all hook together, and we have people that hook that machine together. In a small business that's just not practical, and so having something like Smokeball is fantastic because it's like buy this thing, it does the job, helps you get back to looking after your clients. So
God, I love that. Really, really quick interlude, which is simply, um, I'm positive that you've had been asked to do this explanation a million times, so I am excited to ask you a million and one. Smokeball, the name, the decision, and a little bit of the briefest history in your words, not Chat GPT's words.
not ChatGPT. So I actually named Smokeball, which is a fun fact. And at the time, we were looking to create a brand that um, was memorable, ownable worldwide, easy to spell, and connected to legal. And so when I came up with Smokeball, it was definitely controversial internally. It was like, this is a bit crazy. Um, but it's a legal case, the Carbolic Smokeball Company. In Australia and the UK, it's one of the first cases you learn in contract law. It's like one of those iconic cases. I think
Yep,
lots of lawyers in the US learn it too, because when you
yep.
when you go and they go, oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, so yeah, I think it's interesting though. I mean, I spoke to a brand agency a couple of years ago about doing some rebranding for us, and they're like, the first thing that's got to go is that name, and I was like, huh. So love it or hate it, that's our name.
Yeah, I'm more in the love it camp. I found myself thinking about it very hard. It presented to me as a little pub quiz. I was like, Smokeball, man, I know that, I know that, I know that. And then I finally gave up on my own untrustworthy brain, and did consult the internet, and I had the like, oh, of course, Smokeball. We definitely had that in contract law in the United States, and I just love that. I won't on record ask you, but you got to know I'm dying to know the other names. The guy, I'm dying to know the other considerations. I think that, and look, this kind of touches on an overall kind of topic or theme that we can discuss in different ways, but it is simply the business of law. And as you noted just there, Smokeball, the name, like, you have, it's distinctive and it can be worldwide. And in terms of, the very largest scale, the business of law, like, I absolutely want something distinctive. I don't want to put an I before the name. I don't want to put a .ai after the name. Like, I don't want to put, hashtag blockchain. I don't want that. Like, it's distinctive. And once you hear it, it's also easy to remember. Also, again, for those of us in the legal profession who is like, oh, that's right, I've heard that before. I know that. Yeah, good call.
Yeah,
I
and
love.
you know what? Like, this is like a real side thing, but I was like, there's so many lawyers' tools that have such dry names. They're so boring. Like Lex, whatever. There's so many Lex whatevers. Like, the world didn't need another Lex.
Case whatever,
Oh, I know. Yeah, Case
uh,
Lex. There we go. Case Lex.
dash law lex,
Yeah,
just
there's a
like,
million of them. Boring.
so yeah. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. um Now, pivoting from just taking pot shots generally at AI, but we're taking pot shots at branding. To be fair, you have worked it into Smokeball. So I want to give you a chance to talk about that. But in some previous discussions, I really want to hear more about your thoughts on process. So I think this is very, very related to how you're sort of embedding AI into a tool that you're providing to these clients, but especially the process piece, because I am a self-branded process nerd, and over time I only become more so. So tell me a bit about, again, AI embedded into Smokeball, but especially to, related process points, what you've seen with clients and how they appreciate that stuff.
Yeah, so I guess that's really the approach we have taken to AI at Smokeball, which is that at our heart, from I guess I talked about sending documents out. We're a productivity business helping our clients get more work done. And we've always prided ourselves on the way that it's a very seamless product to use. And so when we started thinking about AI, we didn't want it to have, like, here's this thing that just overlays and ask it anything and it will summarize everything, and then,
It's
like, shiny, shiny.
just like Clippy in Microsoft Word. It just
Yeah,
pops up and you're like, go away, Clippy, go
go
away.
away. And I think there's a lot of that out there, to be honest. So we were like, how are our clients actually going to use this? So, you know, this is where I'm like, I want to bring up the software. Like, people in Smokeball work all day from our software. Like, they're going into a case, they're creating documents, they're creating emails. And so we actually just sort of embedded it into that workflow. So when you go to create a document, it's like you could start from scratch, or you could use a template, or you could use Archie, which is our AI kind of matter assistant. So if you use Archie, Archie's going to do a good job for you. And then you can take that and it will actually automatically turn it into a letter, top and tail it for you, or it will turn it into an email and it will pull up Outlook and it will populate it and will address it to your client from our database. And when you send it, it'll send it from your Outlook sent folder and it will attach a copy of that letter and that email to your matter in Smokeball. So it's like completely seamlessly built into their workflow. I know it's really nice.
For the listeners who are just listening to the podcast, you're missing the face that I make when I see a delicious pizza. That's my I would just hearing like that sort of efficiency embedded into one place. You alluded to it yourself in talking about the various tools that you have to kind of run your business. we, at the enterprise level where I work with my team, I mean, we have the same challenge. The scale might be a little bit different, but we have the same challenge, and I am constantly, look, I'm beating the drum of centralization, trying to have things be a little bit more seamless, putting data in one place. Wouldn't it be nice if that email, was automatically saved into sort of this place, or this data connected to this other data source? It's much easier said than done. These are the fun, complex challenges of large or enterprise clients. But the flip side is, good Lord, if I were a solo practitioner, I'm not getting paid from you, but if I were a solo practitioner, that's the sell. Like I'm like, done. Sign me up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really lovely. And I think, our clients range from, like, I don't know, one human as you to, like, 50 to 70 humans. And in that size firm, it's having an all-in-one solution largely is a beautiful thing, because you do get those benefits, which we also don't benefit from at Smokeball because we're too big. We have to pick and choose our battles. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What is that saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh
Something is
yeah, I love that
something
one.
like that. I should really know that. Uh, I might consult ChatGPT later. Um, you mentioned, and this is very tightly related, that for some of your clients, you're kind of, what's the word, implementing, installing, or giving them process without them necessarily realizing. And is that kind of related to your general workflow description you just shared?
Is related to it, because if I look at the average, like a lot of lawyers that we talk to, if you sort of peel back the onion, they're feeling stressed because they don't feel organized enough, and they feel a bit out of control. So Smokeball manages their matters, and because these integrations with Word and Outlook are so seamless, they tend to use the integrations to actually, you're smiling because one of the challenges we all have as people working with attorneys is getting them to use the damn thing, right? So because it's so seamless, they tend to use it, which then means that they start using the tasks, which then means we can start overlaying. We automatically track their time. We can show them what they've done, and then we can analyze that and show them where they're making money. So it's like, if you just use the tool, and because it's seamless, they do use the tool. It actually builds a process for them. And look, there is a spectrum in our client base. There are clients who do the basics, and there are clients, we have workflow tools in Smokeball, and they automate their day, and they'll come in and have a list of tasks waiting for them for every employee. But but for the most people are not like that. Most people are not. They're just not, unless they, have probably a legal ops team. But and some of our clients do have team, people who are responsible for building out their operation better. And I love that when we see that. But we do definitely do that for our clients. And if I look at getting back to AI, I'm always like, I'm not an AI expert. But what I love about what we've done with AI is that, like, if I, like when we started, when we built out Archie initially and did the, like, do your prompt here, and we're like, people are like, we're not getting a good enough answer, and you're like, and we tell this story in turn. Like, if you had a new paralegal and you went draft X and just told
Yep.
them that,
Yep.
would they do a good job? No, you've
Nope.
not given them enough information. So we started actually building out prompts behind the prompt. So if they write this, we in the background go, when they say this, what they mean is, do this, add this, format it like this, don't include this, never do this. And then we've actually started building out libraries of prompts that they can add to, that we can give them. So, it's kind of that again, it's a layer of process, I guess, but also just, yeah, helping them use the tools to get the job done better, faster, every day.
I So a couple things there. I love putting or preparing prompt libraries for the clients and putting it in front of their faces. I also love the sort of back end kind of prompt engineering piece, right? People will be inexact with some of their requests, and even if it's close enough, but the particular word is wrong, and they're not thinking about it at the time, it's going to lead to a different output. The larger, again, the prompt engineering kind of controls for those variations, but the larger point, which I, the sort of explosion into the popular zeitgeist of AI in the last couple of years has had a couple of effects, and one of them is how does it affect human communication? And I love discussing that. Your example of you've got a new paralegal, just draft this thing. That is, in most respects, poor human communication. If you give that prompt to an AI assistant, you're going to get some low quality output. So I feel like the drive, not the drive, but the improvement of the idea of effective prompting is related to, or has this kind of echo effect with, good human delegation, like good communication. I want this task this way. Here are the parameters. Here is the due date. Please consider these few things when you are doing this task. If you have any additional questions or I've not given you enough information, let me know. That's ultra efficient. And by the way, that's not treating the human as a machine. That's just giving them as much information as possible to let them be a human and use creative thinking and do the task.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. That's so true. Yeah. And also, yeah, like you say, it gives people freedom to do the task. And I think when it comes to AI, it's definitely, you just, yeah, we've got to remember that it's, you're actually using the same. Yeah. Put it through that and use that mindset. You're going to have much more success.
Yeah, theoretically.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Just don't put your client data in ChatGPT. It's all good. They're all doing
you know,
it. I
you
love
know.
it.
I'm sorry. I've been to some different conferences, different working groups, whatever, in the last sort of year, even some internal conversations, and we will often talk about, like, what is your generative AI policy? And some of the generative AI policies are woefully inefficient, woefully sort of just impractical. I think there's no teeth there, but oftentimes they amount to, don't put client data in ChatGPT. Like, and the thing that I realize is, like, maybe we're too into the market. We may not be proper Gen AI experts per se, but we're too much into the market. Whereas, like, our starting point is, obviously don't put client data into ChatGPT. But some people are like, maybe it's
Oh,
okay. It's not okay.
well, I mean, there was something came out in the US like 2 weeks ago that it's ChatGPT is like, used by 80% of lawyers. Or so. It was a huge stat, and I was like, what are they putting in it? Like, what are they using it for? Like, I know what they're doing. They're putting their client data in it.
There's, let all
Ah,
of the listeners be on alert. Jane Oxley knows what you're doing. Stop
yeah,
doing that.
stop doing it.
Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop it. Yeah, there's a maturity level with some of these tools. I think it will follow a kind of a knowledge, or sort of a curve similar to just general sort of tech devices. They're the But that bare minimum level of ease of knowledge, of understanding, needs to be a bit higher, right? Otherwise, it's just wildly unnecessary risk. On some level, well, I'll just leave it at that. It's just unnecessary risk that also oftentimes can really be mitigated pretty easily, in terms of taking this document from a client and dumping it all into Chat GPT. Why don't you take part of it? Why don't you make another version, try to replace some names, replace some dates. If you what are you doing? What is the purpose of it? Also, ultimately, if you use it a little bit and you appreciate the efficiency gains and you want to use it more, you need a secure space. You need to, sort of consider those things and how it's going to work with your data. The best option is obviously going to be a tool with kind of vendor support where you're going to have some confidence that that client data is secure. You don't. I can't imagine in this day and age what it would be like if you were a solo practitioner and then someone, even at a county bar association meeting, and then someone says like, oh, I'm definitely never putting my client data in chat gpt, and then you think, oh, I didn't realize, right? Like absolute ultimate panic. But again, I think it's this is a bit of a longer term mission for us in this space, in this market. The point of the story is Jane is watching you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Speaking of the market, in the sort of prep discussions, I was kind of curious about your insight on general trends. You noted it does seem like there is more appreciation for automation, workflow analysis. The concept of a workflow inside of a law firm is that's there's a new appreciation for that. Tell me a bit about that. What are you seeing? What have you seen in since Smokeball started from zero
Since we
with
started.
your with your genius name?
That did his thing. I would say that, yeah, that is definitely true. So when we this is particularly with the US lens on smaller law firms. So they in 2013 when we started in the US, there was very little appreciation for even like basic document automation, like the very very basic stuff, like what I would call anything around productivity. If you talked to lawyers about um, which software they used, the majority would just tell you they had a billing software. So that was the priority. It was like that was what they saw as mission critical from a software perspective, was getting their bills out the door, perhaps running their trust account and getting paid. So we're like, okay. So we came in at that point with, this is we're gonna create libraries of forms for you. It's gonna manage your emails. It's gonna like fill in all this stuff. And I mean, it was almost like it was black magic. It was that was a lot. So now there's a huge push around automation. There's a huge push around workflow generally, an appreciation of it, more of an appreciation for security and digital ways to engage with your clients. So I think that it has changed a lot in that period of time, and I do think, um, like I was sort of joking about it, like internally, that we've got firms who didn't understand that you could automate a document, who are now with AI being like, can you tell me how much I'm going to bill next month? And can you like make my lunch for me and send the kids to school? And you're like, whoa. So it's interesting. So I think that's the great thing about AI is it's actually opened people's minds to the possibility of what tech can do in a very different way. Um, and I think they're afraid of missing a bus a little bit. So yeah, it has changed a lot. It's interesting because the Australian lawyers and UK lawyers have been much more like UK. They love workflow. They really understand it. But the US, it's been a slower journey, but we're there now, which is great. So yeah, I think it's going to be um, a good, the next 10 years, I think, will be good because they're going to need to adopt tech. It's a good time to get tech into them. And they need it, like genuinely need it to do a better job for their clients. This is not me being like, I'm going to sell things. It's like, it will help them do a better job.
Yeah, you had mentioned, and this kind of touches back on an earlier theme of kind of the business of law and sort of look, sometimes the phrase workflow optimization, even myself, and I work in a larger corporate entity, it can sound a little bit consultancy, right? Um, and It's not, right? Some efficiency in a repeated task or series of tasks is workflow optimization. And if you are a small law firm or a solo attorney, one or two, especially, where you have to do that stuff, but that's not the most important part of your work. The part of your work that's most important is going to be the research, the client facing stuff, right? The client handling. Um, that's the impact stuff, right? You're not going to get another client referral because your email has no spelling errors, right? That's not your brand as a solo attorney. Whereas if you're spending more time with a client, oh, they actually listened to me. I don't know how they did that. And behind the scenes, it's because they're running their legal practice like a proper, efficient business.
Yeah,
That's going to net a client referral. That's going to net a positive
that's
outcome for
right.
that client.
Yeah. I mean, I feel one of the biggest things we bring to our clients is standardization. And it's just, repeatable stuff. And it can be at a really basic level. So I've I mean, I find it hard to believe you go into a law firm, especially in the US, and it will be like there's 10 attorneys all running their own business, right? Under one umbrella. It's like, and they're a business, but it's like, where's your engagement letter? And it's like, well, this is my one, and there's Susie's one, and there's John's one, and then you're like, okay. And then, how do you do things from there? And everyone does things differently. And I'm like, when you hire a new person, how do they get up and running? Like, especially in a world where someone might, heaven forbid, want to work remotely a few days a week. So I think that is a huge thing we bring to people. Like, and when I say making them more organized in spite of themselves, it's like, okay, like we can have one. Why don't you create one engagement letter across the firm? Like, so as a firm owner, that everything that leaves the premises is something that you are proud of, you have sanctioned, it's repeatable. And so it's not always like, if this happens, then do this, and if that happens, then do this. And it doesn't have to be like crazy, crazy workflow process stuff. It can just be do the basics right. Like, have something that you are as a firm owner are proud of, standardize it so that everyone has a quality work output, your clients can expect a quality work output, and if you hire a new person, they know how to do the right things because they can kind of plug and play. You've got a software tool that actually kind of runs it for them. They go to the forms, they see the letter, they're like, oh, that's what I do. So I think I often use that word standardization because it's something that most people can grasp.
Yeah, I I love that too. And you're I was really laughing at your engagement letter example. Um, I think of those things as not quite a little win. I would call them a medium size win. The big win is you take a standardized process or an output of that process like the engagement letter and then put that into a larger workflow, and then you can get really sophisticated. But like there's huge gains to be had from standardizing the engagement letter. There's not necessarily tech around that, right? That's it's process. And I absolutely love that. The other thing, oh, go ahead.
But one of the things we use internally, I'm going to use a profanity. I hope that's all right. But our CFO just walked past, and he always says this thing like, at Smokeball, we should have no shit jobs. Like, no one should have a shit job. And like when you're
Mm,
talking about repeatable things that you can do it, set up in a firm, like that, it's not the fun stuff, is it? When you're for every, you're doing high volume whatever work, and you've got to do this form, and then this has got to happen, and this has got to happen. It's not fun. That's not the bit you went to law school for. Like, you want to be talking to clients and doing that bit. So I think there's a lot of benefit in doing that little bit of heavy lift to get the processes set up, so you can actually have more fun, practicing law and not be doing the shit jobs.
God forbid. more, have have more fun at work. I think that's actually blasphemy. Having fun at work is, I think, well, that's that's just insanity. The other thing in in some of these concepts here, standardizing that engagement letter, putting it inside of, a nice platform with some integrations like Smokeball. Some of these challenges and the efficiencies uh, are the same between our different areas of scale. So you're working with small and medium sized law firms or solo practitioners. Um, I have the exact same challenges in a corporate context. And I think that that's fascinating that there is a sense of, you know, uh, there is a sense of sometimes legal tech is again way up here. It's all of these corporates, they're doing very sophisticated stuff. But once again, to repeat a key point, like this is a commonality, and these efficiencies are absolutely they're shared. The scale of the problem is maybe a little different, but fundamentally, it's not a different problem.
And I do think, we're, there's been this talk for years and years and years about, time billing is dead and it never dies. And look, maybe it will never die, but AI is definitely going to shake the tree, right? It's things are changing, and it's I think it's a good time to adopt technology and be open to improving your processes
Yeah,
because yeah.
preach, preach. Let me ask you a couple more questions before I let you go. Do I had mentioned that I have a friend who is venturing out to start a solo practice. This is in Ohio. Do you all like just get kind of approached by solos of a just I need a this solution does it all kind of a thing? Do you have those really? What's that? What is that like? Because at that point, is that solo attorney? Are they do they have some good knowledge base enough to know your product, or they're like reasonably technologically capable, or is it a just I know the law, I don't know this at all, just give me a whole thing? Like what are the levels of knowledge and the conversations like?
There is such a spectrum is the truth. Like is like we there are solos who are coming out of big law and they've used tools before and they
Mm.
are like, I need to get some tools to help me. There are solos who come out of law school and hang up their shingle and have not the first clue about anything. And there are fellows that have come out of smaller, like other law firms who are not using tech well. So it really depends. And so they're going to the internet to do research. They're going to find all the big players. Luckily now, after a few years, we're up there in that list. But they often come in and, I mean, for us, we're like, what type of law are you doing? What are you going to be doing all day? And so how could we help you get that done faster so you can finish earlier or get more clients or whatever it is. So it really depends on the individual and we actually sort of have two different um, options of smoke. Like one's very light browser based version now, and one is like our sort of high productivity version. It really depends on the firm. If they are like, I'm going to spend all day in court and I really just need to like send the odd email and get my bill out the door, then they don't need a whole lot of workflow but if they're even as a solo, if you're doing real estate law and you're estate planning, you're doing a lot of communication, you want to stay organized. You want that all in one place. So yeah, we just kind of do a bit of diagnosis based on the profile of the firm and what they're wanting to do and if they're wanting to grow. Like, you know, some solos want to just be a solo forever and do well at it and more power to them. And some people, have visions of growing to be a much bigger firm.
Some people have visions of moving to another city with their family and starting a legal tech company from zero. So, some people have those visions. The 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 last thing I wanted to raise with you was a great quote which somehow I had never heard before, which was, what is it? Get the work, do the
Um,
work. What is it?
get the work, do the work, bill the work, and collect the money. And then I always add optimize the firm. So this we stole this from one of our clients. Hunter, our CEOs, one of his mates runs a law firm, and he's like, at the end of the day, that's all you got to do is get the work in the door, do the work, bill the work, collect the money, easy peasy. And so we actually use that internally. Like if you look at our development teams, our engineering teams, they're actually kind of set up in those pots because it's like get the work, okay, intake. How are we going to get like tools to them put on their website or matter intake, like here's we're going to digitally send this intake questionnaire to a client to fill in all this data, then fills in the database in Smokeball. Okay, so they're thinking about that, and then do the work. Do the work's a big behemoth for us. It's where we started, as you could probably tell, and AI is firmly embedded in the do the work bit, and then so on. So and it's interesting that is when you say it to lawyers, they go, "Oh, yeah, that's what I do." But it's good for them to think about it too, right? Like if you're thinking about optimizing your processes as a business, like you need to pay attention to each of the buckets, and most people don't pay attention to all of them. And I mean, for example, build the work. I mean, this could be a whole nother conversation, but like um, a lot of firms I meet do not like billing. So they've set up a billing process in like 1943 and they never want to look at it again. You know, and they could be improved. They could be doing a lot better. They could be communicating better to their clients. Like so, and look again, that's on a spectrum. We've got some clients who are like, you know, they income allocation reporting, like very savvy ways of running their business and paying our partners and associates and so on. But yeah, it's a good framework. We love it. It helps us internally.
I I I love that. The more I thought about it, it almost sounds like lyrics from a rap song. It's real close. It's real close. But again, just to understand, get the work, do the work, build the work, collect the money, optimize the firm. I absolutely love that. And this is a good place to wrap up. Jane, thank you so much for joining me. It was a great conversation. And maybe at some point we'll find each other in Chicago at the same time, and we can have a more fulsome face-to-face argument about pizzas.
While eating a Robert's chart pepperoni pizza.
While eating the wrong pizza.
That's right. Correct.
Um,
Thank you. Thank you so
thank you so
much.
much, Jane.
Bye. Thanks.